Is breaking news.
Mayor de Blasio is giving an update on the coronavirus pandemic in New York City. Let's go to it now.
We're excited to know they would be safe because they were vaccinated. That's what we're going to be talking about every single day, vaccination. And starting next week, we'll be talking a lot more about parents having the opportunity to get their kids vaccinated, getting ready for school. The number one thing, and I want to say it to all parents, number one thing you can do to get your kids ready for school, it's not going and buying a backpack or pens or paper or any of that stuff. It's getting your kid vaccinated if they're not yet vaccinated and they're eligible. Now, we also spent time with some wonderful young people at the playground at the Edenwall houses, made a major announcement about fully funding all of the playgrounds and public housing all over the 5 boroughs that have been closed and needing repairs, and so much work that wasn't happening last year now will happen. Fully funding and fast-tracking the repairs of 83 playgrounds all over the 5 boroughs, obviously some of them right here in the Bronx. And that is going to be so good for our kids. The kids we saw were great, full of life. I want to thank their camp counselors who are doing great work with them this summer. We're going to make sure that playgrounds are fixed as quickly as possible, a lot of them for this summer, others after, but they're all going to be open. The money is there, the focus is there, the plan is there. Now, a lot more is happening in Bronx Week. Members of my administration are around the Bronx, making major announcements, good things happening. Yesterday, the Parks Department broke ground at the Wakefield Playground. Tomorrow, the Parks Department will be cutting ribbon for the Pulaski Park Sports Courts and Tot Lot. Saturday, the Parks Department will be cutting the ribbon for Echo Park. A lot of great things happening, a lot of investments in the Bronx, and it all helps us move forward with a recovery for all of us. I will also say, when you're in the Bronx, there's so many amazing things to do. There's a hell of a lot of good food, too. Yesterday, I was at Porto Salvo in Melrose, a beautiful, beautiful restaurant. If you like Italian food, another great Italian restaurant in the Bronx. I'm looking forward to going to Arthur Avenue soon as well. There is so much to like about the Bronx. There is so much beauty in the Bronx, and particularly the people of the Bronx, who are so extraordinary, so strong. I have a great admiration for the people of this borough, and all through this week we're seeing it on display. And someone else I admire is leading this borough, and what I love about him is his passion for the Bronx, his passion for the people of the Bronx. We've done a lot of work together on behalf of working people. We're going to be doing some exciting things later in the week to help make sure that the great work he's done is remembered for a long time and has a lasting impact on the people of the Bronx, because for him it's been a labor of love for sure. My pleasure to introduce the Borough President of the Bronx, Ruben Diaz, Jr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that you've been here several days, you and your administration. To you, the chief and everyone else, let me just publicly welcome you to Borough Hall. We've been together the last several days. I'm glad that you and the entire City Hall administration is enjoying our borough, the food in our borough. To do this...
Johnny's Reef, brother. Johnny's Reef.
Yes, yes.
That was Monday. That was great.
Yeah, that was great. And to do this, it gives you a firsthand look and appreciation for all of the work that we're doing here. You're being informed by Bronxites, as to all of the issues that of concern to them, and the fact that we want what the rest of New Yorkers want. We want safe streets, we want clean streets, and we've been hit by COVID pretty hard, but we're showing, and you can see our resiliency.
Yes,
and you rattle off some of the major projects. I'm proud to have partnered up with so many of them with you and your administration. If you see the construction going around, I know that a lot of people complain about the traffic and construction, but infrastructure is important. The Bruckner-Sheridan interchange, you see housing development all over the place. You have cut a number of ribbons already this week. We have a big announcement too, but I don't want to give it away, coming later this week. You were here a couple of weeks ago where we broke ground on the Hip Hop Museum.
Yes.
On the Hip Hop Museum, and that's going to be a destination point. It's going to create jobs. It's going to allow for us to celebrate that we are the birthplace of hip hop, that we are where the biggest genre of music was created. And let me just say this, I got to bust your chops a little bit. It doesn't go unnoticed, Mr. Mayor, that you chose a week when the New York Yankees are on a road trip to be here.
We had no knowledge of the Yankees' schedule. I want to deny any conspiracy whatsoever.
But I'm glad that you're enjoying our food. I saw you at the Botanical Garden. We're going to be together later on tonight. And, you know, there's so much work that needs to be done. The Bronx is here to help you and your administration push forward the agenda to make this city even stronger. So welcome, and we appreciate the fact that you're spending the week here.
Thank you. Listen, Borough President, thank you. And your staff has been great. I want to shout out your whole team. Been very welcoming and helped us set up a whole series of activities here in the Bronx, connecting with the people of the Bronx, delivering for the Bronx, which is crucial. And you're right, we have some very special activities coming up later in the week that are very, very dear to you and me, and we're looking forward to that. But something you said a moment ago, the Hip Hop Museum, that was a very special day. That was a very powerful day. And the Hip Hop Museum is going to be something that changes, I think, profoundly, people's understanding of just how important the Bronx has been in the history of New York City. It is an indispensable borough. It is also, as we talked about yesterday, the place that so many of the people who kept New York City going through COVID were Bronxites, who kept this city going bravely, with tremendous resiliency, but also the history, the culture of the Bronx deserves a lot more attention. The Hip Hop Museum is going to be one of those things that really makes that happen. So,
and
very proud.
To all that are viewing out there, please come and enjoy our borough. Just simply go to ilovethebronx.com. And you will see all of the calendar of events that we're having throughout the summer. Shameless plug, September 5th, we will have El Gran Combo, for those that like salsa, and another genre of music, El Gran Combo, playing at Orchard Beach, and it's free of charge.
Doesn't get better than that. Yeah. You got Orchard Beach.
Yes.
You got City Island. You got Van Cortlandt Park. You got Arthur Avenue.
Yep.
You got Yankee Stadium. Okay, I'll say it. You got Yankee Stadium. You got amazing food of so many different cultures. You got the Hip Hop Museum happening, coming soon. I think there's a hell of a lot of special things happening in the Bronx.
Yes, and we welcome everyone. We again appreciate you and your entire team being here. And you know, by the way, Bronxites and those New Yorkers, get yourself vaccinated, get yourself tested. Let's do this all together so that we can enjoy every single corner of the city. But this week we're enjoying the Boogie Down Bronx.
You said it. Perfect segue. Perfect segue. Because let's talk about vaccination. Borough President's entirely right. The key is vaccination. We can talk about so many other issues with COVID, but if we're not talking about vaccination, then we're not talking about the solution. You want a recovery, you need vaccination. Whatever it is, you want to enjoy life to the fullest, you need vaccination. So let's give the facts up to now. In New York City, this is a great number, 9,902,097 doses have been given. We're on the verge of 10 million. And the only way we're going to keep this recovery going is for more and more people to get vaccinated. Now, we've talked the last few days about mandates, and there's no question in my mind, mandates are a crucial part of the solution, and we'll keep working on those. But we also still believe in incentives. Incentives help immensely. Both go well together, in fact. So we are announcing a major new incentive that I think is going to be very, very appealing to New Yorkers. I know there's hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers ready to get vaccinated right now. Maybe they just need to focus a little more, and I'm sure they're feeling urgency at this moment given what we see happen around us. So here's an announcement that I think will move a lot of people. Starting on Friday, we will provide at city-run vaccination sites, when you get your first dose of the coronavirus vaccine, when you get your first dose, you will get a $100 incentive. $100 for any New Yorker who goes to a city-run site to get vaccinated. We'll say thank you. We'll say we're really glad that you got vaccinated for yourself, for your family, for your community. And here's $100 to thank you for doing the right thing and to encourage people. And not only do you get the $100, you then qualify to be able to do everything else that's wonderful in this city, including the amazing concerts coming up. You can't go to those concerts unless you're vaccinated. We talked about the Central Park concert yesterday, 5 total concerts. We're going to be talking about the lineups for the Bronx and the other boroughs coming up. They're going to be amazing, but the only folks who get to go are folks who are vaccinated. So starting Friday, get vaccinated, get that first dose, get qualified to be able to go to all sorts of amazing things, and get a $100 incentive. It does not get better than that. All right, now, the fight against COVID continues. The focus on vaccination continues. That's how we're going to build our recovery. But the recovery also requires a focus on public safety. We've talked about this a lot. Public safety equals recovery. Recovery equals public safety. The more recovery, the safer our streets get. The more the life in New York City returns, the more people come back to all the things we knew, the safer we get. Our police leaders will tell you that. But we got to keep working on safety all the time for the good of all and to bring back this city fully. And that's been especially true in the Bronx. There's been real challenges in the Bronx, but there's also tremendous resiliency in the Bronx. There are folks all over the Bronx working with the police to make things better. There are folks all over the Bronx creating community-based solutions to violence. Amazing stuff is happening here. We want to talk about that today. So the bottom line is before the summer began, we laid out a vision, Safe Summer NYC. We talked about those investments in communities, Cure Violence Movement, crisis management system, a variety of efforts to reach down to the community level, solve violence before it happens. We talked about our court system, needing to get that back fully. We've made a lot of progress, but there's still more to do. We still need the state to lean in and get the courts back 100%, but we're getting there. And we talked, of course, about cops, the investments in making sure that cops were in the right places, precision policing, a focus on gun arrests. All of these strategies were put in place. And guess what? These strategies are working. Gun arrests up 43% year to date compared to last year, 43%. This is a tribute to the men and women of the NYPD. And you're going to hear from 2 leaders of the NYPD, but I want to take a moment to thank the cop on the beat. I want to thank all of the everyday NYPD officers, the detectives, the NCOs, everyone out there making a difference. You should be very, very proud of the fact that gun arrests have gone up so much. Every single gun arrest makes people safer. Also, important to note, in the last month, comparing this last month with the same month a year ago, we see some real change. We see some real improvement. Shootings down 36% compared to the same time period in 2020. In the past month, in that last month, murders are down compared to the same time in 2020 and 2019. This is about the work of the NYPD, the heroic work of the NYPD. It's also about growing connection between the NYPD and community members. Chief Harrison's talked about this a lot. A lot of the best ways to stop crime and solve crime is with that careful, close working relationship with communities. That is growing all the time. Now, we got a lot more to do, we know, a whole lot more to do, especially to overcome the perfect storm we went through last year with COVID. And we know the Bronx has had particular challenges, and we have to take them head on. But I want to give everyone some confidence with what we've experienced in the last few months in Brooklyn North. And Brooklyn North, anyone who follows safety issues in the city knows that Brooklyn North has been one of the areas for decades with some of the biggest challenges. But this plan, the Safe Summer Plan, had a very big impact in Brooklyn North. I want to give you a quote from an op-ed by District Attorney Eric Gonzalez of Brooklyn that was in the Daily News this week. He said, "In Brooklyn, where I serve as a chief law enforcement officer, homicides, shootings, and other serious crimes are declining compared to last year, and time-tested strategies to further reduce the violence have been working." That is a tough place for these strategies to be applied, and it worked. We're going to take the same strategies, deepen the effort here in the Bronx. It can be done, it will be done, a focus on gang takedowns, a focus on even more gun arrests, a focus on precision policing, deepening community engagement, working with cure violence and crisis management system. All of these pieces make a profound impact. I want you to hear from our chief of department, who has been meticulously organizing these strategies to make sure they have an impact and is laser focused on the needs of the people of the Bronx to keep them safe. Chief of Department Rodney Harrison.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for having me. Before I get started, if you don't mind, I got to take a moment to acknowledge Jason Savino. He's at the other end of the table. Jason Savino is the guru when it comes to gang violence. He's getting promoted Friday to deputy chief. Jason, congratulations and well deserved, as well as to all the promotees that are getting promoted on this Friday. I just want to make sure I give you a nice acknowledgement on this platform to say congratulations and well deserved. Mr. Mayor, I also want to talk about the Bronx police officers. You know, you just take a look at the Bronx cops under the leadership of Kenny Lair and Tim McCormick. Not only they're the best police officers in the city, but maybe in the country, and they're going to make sure that we turn around the violence that we're seeing throughout the city. So if I just real quickly just go into my written remarks, I just want to talk about some of the numbers that we see in the city. We have 876 shootings for the year to date. 283 of those shootings are in the Bronx, which accounts for 32% of the city's shooting incidents year to date. 54 of those shooting incidents have resulted in a fatality. In the areas where we're seeing the greatest increase in gun violence is in the 4-0 precinct, which is in Melrose, 4-2 precinct, which is the Tremont section, 4-3 precinct, Soundview, the 4-4 precinct in Morris Heights, the 4-6 precinct in University Heights, and in the 4-7, which is in Eastchester area. The main cause for the uptick in violence is youth gangs and youth violence. So far this year, we see 29% of our shooting victims are under the age of 18 years old. And many of these victims, unfortunately, have an affiliation with a gang. But year to date, the Bronx cops have made 682 gun arrests. That's compared to 467 made last year. We have not seen those types of numbers since 1996. Public housing, NYCHA, is unfortunately where some of our gun violence and gang-related violence is taking place. This year alone, gun violence in public housing is up 109%. 46 shootings in the Bronx originated on NYCHA property. And despite the overall increase in gun-related incidents in the Bronx, our hardworking detectives have kept pace throughout the city. 33% of the shootings have been solved by the Bronx detectives, who are the greatest detectives in the world. And that's a compliment to Tim McCormick, the younger brother, who's doing a great work regarding the leadership out in the Bronx. And this is directly connected to the community relations that we're building in the Bronx, to foster particularly in the areas of concern, to make sure we have those relationships so people are willing to come forward to help us solve a lot of these crimes. So this is what we're going to be doing. This is going to be the full court press. We have all-out officers. We've taken 150 administrative officers and put them in our areas of concern in the 4-0 precinct, the 4-4 precinct, and the 4-8 precinct, as well as PSA 7. We've also taken another 150 police officers throughout the city and put it in our areas where we're seeing a lot of gun violence as well, just to have that omnipresence, just to make sure that people feel safe walking the streets. We have our police officers at nighttime in our areas of concern, driving around with those turret lights. That's definitely a deterrent, and we've seen it work throughout the city. One of the most successful strategies that have brought down crime in the city have been gang takedowns. And Jay Savino is going to talk about that in a moment. That's going to be something that we're going to utilize our precision policing, going after the worst of the gang members, making sure we take them off the streets. Working with our local and state federal prosecutors, with precision focusing on specific gang members that are causing the problems. We need the public's help. We need the public to talk about the concern of our local district attorneys and how we're going to make sure we prosecute individuals and make sure anybody that discharges a firearm is prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. There are many gangs in New York City that are profiting from ancillary related crimes like drugs and prostitution. And we've deployed our violent crime squad, our vice squad, our firearm suppression units to make sure that these gang members don't prosper from these types of crimes. And if I can add a bigger perspective, the Bronx in the last 6 weeks has been down 12 shootings versus last year. As well as in May, the Bronx had 62 shootings, in June, 54 shootings, and in the month of July, they've had 44 shootings. Now, I will say this, one shooting is too many, but I'm very optimistic, just seeing the trend that we're headed in the right direction. And lastly, I want to remind the public, we could use your assistance, we could use your help. If there's anything that you see of violence, please call our hotline at 1-800-577-TIPS. We raised our monetary reward to $3,500, and we could use your assistance to help some of these investigations and close out some of these shooting arrests. I'm now going to pass it over to Jason Savino.
Hey, but wait 1 second. Wait 1 second. Jason Savino, I just want to emphasize, who's done a great job as the commander of the Gun Violence Suppression Division, on Friday will be promoted to deputy chief. And that's a great tribute to the work you've done to keep New Yorkers safe. So I just want to formally congratulate you, and we welcome your comments.
I appreciate that, and I'll echo that sentiment. Thank you both. It's a true honor just to sit amongst our team. And, you know, to Chief Harrison directly, you've been a mentor of mine since our days back in Brooklyn.
That's right.
And certainly it's an absolute honor to hold the torch that you provided me. And thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start by saying, you know, I have a special place in my heart for the Bronx. Born and raised just outside the Bronx in Yonkers. Foot cop, transit cop, started out in the Bronx, went full circle as a lieutenant. So, you know, when it comes down to boroughs, and I hope everybody's not offended, but when it comes to flavor, when it comes to just pizzazz and charisma, the Bronx is top notch. So I'll start with that. So good morning to everybody. I'm Inspector Jason Savino, Commanding Officer of Gun Violence Suppression Division. Our division ultimately builds cases against gang members, those that are willing to carry a gun. We're talking about that real small percentage, if you will, that willingly endanger our great community, the great people in our communities. Our team consists of over 200 investigators that pride themselves in creating pristine cases. And I'm so thankful and blessed that our investigators consider the members of our community kind of like family. You know, we take our mission tremendously personal, and protect our public certainly to the best of our ability. Now, we have to note that the members of our team certainly kept and maintained boots on the ground, not only throughout the pandemic, but through so many other challenges that we faced. Our members never slowed for a second. It certainly shows that NYPD always performs at the highest level. Let's get into our mission. So I think the best way to describe exactly what we do is we have the best of the best, really looking at and monitoring the worst of the worst. We utilize our next level of precision policing policies and really address geography, the ripe subjects you have to consider. Even amongst gangs, there's only a few trigger pullers. The real alphas of the gang, those individuals that have the gall and the disregard to pull a trigger, there's still only a few. These are the individuals we build cases around. The crews we investigate are those, once again, the few individuals that make it uncomfortable and downright dangerous for all the great people in our neighborhoods, in our communities, who without remorse really carry firearms and create an uncomfortable quality of life for all, you know, that only the worst of the worst can create. No true regard for anybody in and around them. You know, we actually see on video and surveillance throughout our cases residents doing all they can just to avoid these subjects. Everybody in the community knows exactly who they are, the bad guys that truly create the adverse living conditions that I'm speaking of. You know, not to mention these subjects that we investigate are willing to pull a trigger. Why do they pull a trigger? Exclusively to benefit their respective gang. And I say respective very loosely. You know, even to go so far to take a life. Now, sometimes even bragging thereafter about such, we know bullets have no names, a theme we have tragically seen far too many times. Now, to combat this, we dedicate such tremendous, tremendous effort, and our team is absolutely relentless in tackling gun violence. Always doing everything we can to protect our community. It's our community, where all work is one. Now, the work we have performed, we feel has made a significant impact, reducing shootings. And we're starting to see that citywide, as you noted earlier, Mr. Mayor. Violence is trending downwards, and we're happy to see it. And we feel that our investigations and takedowns really have a direct correlation decreasing these incidents. Case in point, you mentioned Brooklyn North earlier. So since late December, our gun violence suppression team has initiated 6 gang takedowns, 6 since December, 5 of which that have occurred since May 5th, resulting in the apprehension of 87 total individuals. And once again, we're talking about the true trigger pullers. Almost every one of them has pulled the trigger at least once. These are the individuals that are endangering our public. And just to show the effectiveness of our takedowns, we'll go right to Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. You know, 2 takedowns of the 6 affected that area. Now, when you look at 2020 versus 2019, that area experienced over 100% increase in shootings, where you're talking 52 shootings to well over 100. You know, significant increase. Now, that same area, when you look at after May 5th, is down 50%. And we feel that our takedowns directly contributed to that. Now, all of our cases parallel each other in that they address, once again, the core groups, the worst of the worst in the entire city. Again, next level precision policing. Our gun violence suppression division, these cases that we initiate are far-reaching and protecting the entire city. The best part is there's more to come. We have some real promising active investigations right here in the Bronx. And while I'm not really at the liberty to speak about the semantics and the particulars of them, we do expect very similar results in the future. So super optimistic, and I can't wait to tell all the great people in the public our outcomes. Let me finish with this, if I will. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, Chief, I'll echo your sentiment. I'd be remiss if I didn't offer thanks really to our community, and so sincerely. This is why we became cops. And that's a sentiment our entire team feels. Let me repeat, this is why we became cops. The community called, we answer, and together we can reduce violence. Thank you.
Inspector, that was a beautiful way to put it all together, and I thank you. You spoke passionately and powerfully, and I could also tell how much you love the Bronx, and I appreciate that for sure. Yonkers is good, too. We got Yonkers best, and we brought him to the Bronx. I like it. But listen, thank you, and congratulations again, and that is an exceptional report. It shows we always got a lot to do, but we got the tools to do it with, and people out there doing amazing work. And speaking of the effort to make the Bronx safer every day, I want you to hear from the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the Bronx. She has distinguished herself by combining all the tools of course effective prosecution, but also constant work with communities, with clergy, with local leaders, with the Cure Violence Movement, crisis management system, all the pieces coming together. That's what the district attorney believes in, and that's what she's put into action here in the Bronx. My pleasure to introduce District Attorney Darcel Clark.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, and welcome back to the Bronx. It's wonderful to have you here. To my borough president, I'm so proud of him, of his 12 years. It's a great thing. Chief Harrison, thank you so much for your partnership. I hear your passion in the work that we're trying to do here in the Bronx. And Inspector Savino, we could not do this without you and your team. So thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Mayor, public safety is a #1 priority, and we're doing it from every corner of the Bronx and in every way that we can. And when you brought about the Safe Summer program, it dovetailed completely with my strategic plan of Bronx Peace, which is precision enforcement and community engagement. And we've been doing both. So these shootings have been a priority. We're happy that it's going down, but we need more help, and NYPD has been ready, willing, and able to do that. Big ups to Chief Lear as well as Chief McCormick. They are working so well with my team to make sure that we bring about the best prosecutions that we can. And that clearance rate is just going to go up, because at the end of the year, the Bronx is always at the top of the food chain as far as clearances are concerned. So we're going to continue to do that work. I have dedicated experienced, seasoned assistant district attorneys to be assigned to these shootings, so that whatever NYPD needs in part of their investigation, they have a lawyer already ready, willing, and able to execute search warrants, whatever it is that they need in order to make the investigation great. And we are looking at the gangs, and we're looking at, in particular, those trigger pullers. But we can't do it also without the community. They have marched with me each and every day throughout the very streets where the shootings are actually happening. So I'm glad to have the partnership with the crisis management teams and the cure violence groups. All of them in the Bronx have helped me in a number of ways. The clergy is so very important, because they are also meeting people where they are, as well as the businesses. We have a program called Bronx Cams, where we have registered all of the NYCHA cameras, and I thank you, Mr. Mayor, that the city is making sure that we get those cameras fixed, because that's the evidence that we use, as well as private business owners and building owners who are allowing us to see their video as part of the work that we have to do. So we're all in this together, and at the end of the day, it means keeping the Bronx safe. You're talking about the uptick in youth violence, gang violence, and those victims being so young. We also have to give our young people something to do. We have to give them an alternative to violence. And Mr. Mayor, you have helped with that. We kicked off Saturday Night Lights, 100 gyms in New York City, 25 in the Bronx now, where young people can go. I have been at a number of ribbon cuttings where you have refurbished basketball courts. Those are the things that we need to continue to do. Play streets. I'm working with the PAL or PAL, and the Yankees are doing something together. So we're going to continue to do this on all fronts. And most importantly, for those victims of the crime to know that my office is ready, willing, and able to give them whatever assistance as well. We need the community's help, and those who are courageous enough to come forward to help us solve these crimes and really remove these people who are causing that much the violence in our community. We have therapists, we have advocates, we can move them. I have a number of resources for people who are witnesses and victims to the crime. You are not alone. If you don't call a hotline, call us. We will be there. I'll send somebody out to make sure that you're safe. And then I want to say something else too. And people don't usually do this, but I want to speak to the families of the young people. I'm talking about those gang members who are making the bad decisions. They have families, and their families are being judged for the wrongdoing that their particular children or loved one is doing. I care about them too, because they're struggling as well. And they need to know that there are places that they can go to try to get help for that young individual and their family before they decide to pick up that gun. So I'm speaking to them as well. If they need help, if they feel lost because they lost a job, or they're working 2 or 3 jobs and they can't supervise their kids or their family members, come see us as well.